Well, hello, and welcome back to the Called to Parent podcast, Jen's podcast. I'm Mark.
It's very much so not my podcast.
You're supposed to say your name, though.
I'm Jen.
This is her podcast. It
It's
really
not-
is.
It's not my podcast.
She's a podcaster. We got a chance to listen to the last two episodes, episode 2 and 3 of the Called to Parent podcast with Dalton, Emily, and Andy and Jenna on our way home. And here we are. We're back.
Yep.
We're back for episode 4.
Yep. And I thought those were great episodes. I thought that
They were.
they killed it and unpacked everything super well.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah.
We're talking through Paul David Tripp's book. What is it? 12 gospel principles, 14 gospel principles. You have the book in your hand.
14.
14 gospel principles for parenting. And so we've talked through a couple of different subjects. Today we're going to move on to chapter 4 of the book, and we're going to be discussing how powerless we are to actually effectively change our kids in some way. That's the main subject. Before we get into it, have you felt that way sometimes with our kids? Like, you really want them to change and you just at some point recognize, I can force them to do some things, but I can't really.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I've definitely felt that. But I would say more so as they're getting older, but even when they were babies.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Yeah. I think each of our kids had challenging moments with the whole wanting them to do something different, even as like infants. Like, I think about Brooklyn pulled out her hair a lot when she was a baby, and like the whole front of her. I distinctly remember thinking Brooklyn was a really cute baby. And then I look back on the photos now and I'm like, her hair her hair was such a mess because she pulled all of the hair out of the front off. And I think of Ari and I think of just like how desperately we wanted her to sleep. Like in those first
I
6
tried
months.
everything.
Everything.
And she told me, I am my own person, Mom. That's what she said to me. For 6 months.
For 6 straight months.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Talk a little bit about like the difference between, because we came out of Brooklyn, raising Brooklyn the first couple of years, I feel like we had a lot of confidence in our ability to master sleep schedules and man, that was a really hard season early into the birth of our second child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what do you want me to expand on there?
I think just talk a little bit about like
just my inability to control.
Well, yeah,
that
I think our inability to control and just like what that season was like for us, because it was a hard season.
Yeah, I think with Brooklyn, we did get her on a sleep schedule. She, of course, as a newborn was all over the place, but eventually we figured it out. And then I felt empowered as a parent, like, wow, I figured something out. And we're all doing better because I figured it out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I could put her in her crib and she would nap like clockwork. I could time it out. It was wonderful. I could plan my whole day around her, her schedule and what she was going to do. And it was just wonderful. So I knew I wasn't blinded by that completely because I knew having another child that child would be different. And I knew
that's what everybody says. Right?
I
Every
knew
one of your kids are
that
different.
I was going to lose sleep. Like I was expecting that. I was just not expecting how extreme it was. She I was at the end of myself at a couple of points in terms of energy and what I had inside of me to give. Like she never wanted me to put her down.
Ever. Anybody to put her down. Ever.
And it's possible that she had pain from like acid reflux or something, but there was no known pain that she was experiencing.
She just wanted to be held.
And so I held her for hours and hours every day, rocked her. That's the only way that she would sleep. And we could get some peace. And I tried all the things that I tried with Brooklyn, and
We did the sleep training. We did
right
the,
ages. I did everything, and
ignore her, let herself soothe. That didn't work. She outlasted us, screamed longer than we could deal
pacifiers
with it.
and different types of swaddling
Didn't
and
matter.
holding her and then transferring her, sound machine. I mean, like all the things.
Everything. We did
and
everything.
really, she just grew out of it one day, slowly. But
About the day that COVID hit.
that was
about the day that she grew out of it.
definitely yeah, that was true. The time she started sleeping, the whole world shut down and we couldn't go anywhere.
We couldn't go anywhere, yeah.
But that was definitely my first major experience with I can't control you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I could control a baby because Brooklyn was easily controlled. Arya was not. And so that was hard for me physically, but it absolutely was hard for me mentally and spiritually. Like, this is out of my control.
Yeah, we were asking, what are we doing wrong? Are we doing something wrong by her? Is there something wrong that we're not seeing? For months and months. The first, I think I was off for about a week and a half when Arya was born, and then I went back to work. And for the remainder of those first 6 months of her life, really, we always held her. And so Jem would go to bed at like 9 o'clock, 8:30 sometime at night, and I would take Ari. We'd go downstairs to the basement, and I would play Teamfight Tactics.
I actually took your picture one day because I was like, I know we need to remember this.
I would play, I'll never forget, I would play Teamfight Tactics until 3 o'clock in the morning. Just game after game after game. I would listen to YouTube and play Teamfight Tactics because it was the only game that I could effectively play with one arm. So I held her in one arm, sat in a chair, and played until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I would come up and we would trade, and you would start your day at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And you'd go downstairs, try to get a little sleep on the couch, sort of upright, which never worked. And I would go to bed for a couple of hours, and then I would wake up, relieve you so that you could get some breakfast together, and then I would go to work. And that was kind of our life for 6 months. I mean, we kind of went into a dark hole. We didn't really see many people.
Winter.
It was winter.
It was so depressing.
It was cold. We didn't see hardly anybody that winter, some family and stuff. But that feeling of my life is out of control and I'm not sure when it's going to get back into control. And I think probably between the two of them, Ari has been the one that's insisted the most over her life of telling us and showing us that she's her own person and she's in control of what she's going to do. And we're not actually, we might have the perception of control, but all of that is very superficial, which is one of the things that I love about Paul's chapter here is he really gets into we want control and we want the illusion of control, but oftentimes we don't really ever have control over our children. We can't actually change the things they think or the things that they believe. They have full freedom over those things and largely have full freedom over their actions, even if we deal with sort of the repercussions for those actions. But he goes over some of the ways in this book that parents typically try to gain more control or the illusion of control and why some of those things don't work in the long run.
Yeah. And the guiding principle for this chapter, the very first words of the chapter are this principle: recognizing what you are unable to do is essential to good parenting. Mm-hmm. And that really sat with me because if we apply it to this situation with our newborn, looking back, I would have had so much more peace if I had realized that it was out of my control. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of factors in there that I still would have been losing my mind, hormonal stuff and you know, all that stuff. Yeah. But I genuinely think that if I had come to terms with that concept that I cannot control her, I would have had more peace during that season. Mm-hmm. And so I'm fairly certain that he's implying that that applies to all seasons of parenting, that you are walking in the way that God's calling you to walk as a parent. You will have more peace in this parenting journey if you come to terms with the fact that you cannot control your child.
Yeah. And I think that I had some level of acknowledgement of that when we had infants, because that stage for me, like I kind of instinctively knew I didn't have control, and the responsibility of getting kids on the sleep schedule and stuff really fell on you. It really didn't fall on me. Like my responsibility was to get back to work and to help out where I could. And so I didn't feel the weight of that. I feel more of the weight of that now with my children sort of being in the age and the time that, discipline is effective and the tone of my voice matters. And, my kids still trust me and they don't think that I'm wrong about things yet. But the time is changing quickly. And I already see that in our eldest at 8 as she experiences other people through friends and other people's parents. Her experience, she's beginning to realize that her parents' way of doing things aren't the only way of doing things necessarily. And perhaps maybe her parents are wrong about some things. And so she's not a rebellious child at all. She's the very opposite of that. But I can already see where I have an instinct to want to sweep in and control her worldview, what she thinks, her influences. And I want that control because I want to, I feel like it's my responsibility to raise good daughters. And
Paul gives 2 words here with different connotations. So we have authority, but not power. And so I think those have different connotations. Power, more of an image of forcing.
Force, yeah.
And authority is more of, the level of, I don't know, I don't want to use the word power there, but the level in the house of
who's in charge.
Who's in charge,
who gets the final
but also
say.
like you're the guide.
Yeah.
You get to set the boundaries, you get to set the guidelines.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we don't have the power to force our children to change. But as you were saying, he does talk about ways that parents exercise this temporary power or temporary control that, okay, I can get my kid to do this right now, and then I can move on with my day.
Like I'll fix the problem. It's like a Band-Aid, right?
Yeah.
Like they're misbehaving. I'll threaten to get my way right now, or I'll bribe in order to get my way right now. But in the long run, you're teaching your children something different. And I think one of the things I thought was funny, one of the things that he said in there was like the moment your kids aren't afraid of you anymore is the moment that like some of your control just dissolves, right? It's like if
that's the next point.
Oh, that's the next point.
It. So then,
let's get into it.
So one of those ways that you can temporarily control your child with power is with fear. And we know how fear is used to take control of people all over the world.
Yeah,
and it applies to within our own homes. We can instill fear in our children of us.
He talks about counting, and I thought that was a really interesting because I'm a counter. Like I'm thoroughly a counter. I'm going to start counting, and if I get to 3, and it is effective. Like our kids will definitely respond to dad beginning to count. I don't know that I've ever really gotten to 3 with any of them ever. I don't think they want to know what happens there. I might not even know what happens there. Sometimes but I don't know. I
think the 1, 2, 3 for us is giving our child, like, I know Jenna last week said, like, no, I'm saying it one time and like that's it. And I actually I agree with that. I think, you say it, you do it. But I also, the 1, 2, 3 for me is giving them and me the pause in this moment to not have a knee-jerk reaction. Like, I'm going to think in my head what's happening right here. And I'm giving myself a pause, 1, 2, 3. And I'm giving you, the child, a pause, 1, 2, 3, to make a better choice.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't think it's like necessarily a terrible tool, but
I think out of all the tools that Tripp sort of talks about and in a not such a positive light inside of this chapter, the counting thing, maybe it's just because my father was a counter, my mother was a counter. I grew up in that environment. I'm very familiar with it.
A counter.
I think it was super effective for me. I think it was relatively effective for my brother. Jenna in the last episode did talk about how, you're not going to do that if your kid's on the street and a car is coming, right? There are some things that need to be immediate. I think in our household, counting has sometimes been effective, but I also know like there has been times in my own parenting that I've definitely relied on the quick fix of fear in order to
definitely more you
win
than,
a situation.
Than me.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And so this portion of the chapter was super convicting to me. And I think back, we were having a problem with Ari several months ago, and we really hadn't gotten to the root of what the problem was, but we were having a problem, and there was a behavior problem, and she did the thing again, right? And I had just had it. I just had it. So the girls were showering. They're in the shower, and I stuck my head in, and I thought, I'll use the intimidation tactic, which I don't typically raise my voice very much with the girls, but I can be very, very loud. And so I stuck my head in the shower, and I literally thought to myself, my voice will echo quite well in the shower. If there's a way that I can kind of get the fear of God into her, so that, which is just the fear of me, that she'll realize I don't want to do this again. This is the opportunity. And so I put my head in the shower and I bellowed, and I made it very clear that I was unhappy with her behavior, and she didn't care at all. It didn't faze her. I was like,
at least externally.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it bothered her. What was the sad part was my older daughter, it bothered her. And so she's in tears. My younger daughter's just staring at me, and it looks like she's ready to go toe to toe with me. Her little 5-year-old, 32 pounds, looks like she's ready to just, okay, Dad, step up, go ahead, bring it on. And this was that moment where it's like, okay, fear did not work. It didn't work. I tried it. I played the fear card. I played the intimidation card. And I think as parents, we all do that occasionally, where it's just like, we just need you to quit doing the thing that you're doing, and we don't know what else to do. So maybe I can scare you into either doing what you're supposed to do or not doing what you're not supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely a tactic that I have fallen on. I think it's what I learned too. I had a healthy fear of my father growing up. Mm-hmm. I don't think I had an unhealthy fear. My father was never abusive, but I certainly had a healthy fear. It wasn't until I was older before I developed more than my father being sort of a disciplinarian in our household. That was my dad. What I felt like my dad's primary role was for me growing up. My mom was the person that we were close to. It wasn't until we got out of the house and I kind of got on my own that my dad and I's relationship changed. And maybe it's because I don't see that as a negative for me in my life, and I don't see it as a negative in my girl's life. But that chapter was definitely convicting to me, and it was like, yeah, fear at best is a quick fix. It's not a long-term solution.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. So I got to make some changes. Yeah, I got to make some changes. You literally texted me the other night, last night. I had to put the girls to bed, and I said, they went to bed, and your text back was, okay, did you have to threaten them? Like in a, not like in a I don't threaten my girls. That? Yeah. You said, did you have to threaten them to get them to stay in bed? Because they stayed in bed last night. And
I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, you sent me that text, 100%. Look at the text that you sent me recently. Okay. We're having a marital text adjustment here. And I didn't, but I know that I can have a tendency to lean that way. Yeah, you did say that. Did you have to threaten them to keep them in bed? And I didn't. I didn't threaten them last night, but I've been known to be like, listen, you're going to bed right now. And if you get out of this bed, you don't have to deal with your mother. You have to deal with me. And it's like a quick fix intimidation to get you to stay in your room.
Yeah.
Versus maybe getting to what the root.
I kind of struggle with this part because I absolutely don't think that our children should be afraid of us on the regular. And True. I don't think that, I think it is sinful and awful when parents are screaming in their children's faces. And I think you crossed the line that day.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. I do believe that there is a healthy fear of your parents within your home. And I don't know how to fully describe that other than I even think about, we are God's children and as parents, it's kind of like a representation of that dynamic a little bit. And think about, when God speaks to Job from the whirlwind, I mean, he is just like, who are you to talk to me like that?
Yeah.
And I know so much more. I created the heavens. I created the snow. I have the storehouses of the snow. I am to be feared. Mm. And I think that there is some element of that in parenting. I just don't know how to fully describe that because I think as humans, we have such a way of turning that into abuse and it's so sinful. So I'm not sure how to really unpack that, but do you know what I mean?
Well, I think there's a difference between being trying to instill fear into your children as a way of controlling them, and then there's a difference between you having authority inside your household, and so your kids do have a certain fear of doing the wrong thing, but they know that you love them. And I think that there's a big difference between when you don't know if your parents love you and they're constantly using fear and intimidation to control your life, and that's the only tool in their tool belt. That's the only thing that they ever do to try to get you to do what you should do, is fear and intimidation. And then sometimes it's the right thing. It's the right thing for them to know that this is wrong and you should not do this thing. There are consequences if you do it. And then there's sometimes when you get it wrong, you misdiagnose it and you respond by trying to enforce things, and you shouldn't. Like the instance with me, bellowing in the shower. Our youngest was getting ready to go to kindergarten, and we found out that she was having some level of fear and anxiety over that we just didn't realize that she was having. And once she worked through that with us, the behavior issues that we were dealing with began to lessen and go away. And I didn't realize that at the time, right? I think that's one of the things sometimes when you use the fear tactic with your kids, or the intimidation tactic, to get them to do what you want them to do or what they should do. Sometimes you can get them to do that and you don't realize that you're glazing over or
A root issue.
Yeah, you're missing something that's bigger, that's going on below the surface, that you're fixing with Band-Aid.
That's usually the case.
Very frequently.
I had a friend who I remember she made a really bad choice, and her dad came. Her dad came and picked her up. I don't remember if she reached out to him or he just found out where she was, but he came and picked her up, and instead of berating her, she was a teenager, instead of berating her, he said, "Let's go get some ice cream. Let's just talk." And I think that's probably more of what the point he's getting to here is that we should not be reaching for that tool in our tool belt of fear initially, and anger. But trying to provide grace, that the same grace that God gives to us, and trying to get to those root issues instead of just temporary fixes.
Yeah. And that's not to say that discipline isn't necessary, because it is, right? But there's a difference between yelling and screaming and intimidation, and we're going to go out and get ice cream. And there is going to be consequences for the decision that you just made, but I love you despite the decisions that you just made. Even if what they're doing is infuriating you. And so, this was definitely, of the 3 sections of the book, of this chapter, this was the one that was most convicting for me, because if there's a fallacy that, or, a false feeling that I fall into, or false idea that I fall into as a parent, it's that fear is effective. And it is very temporarily, and sometimes it's not at all. Anything else from that section before we move on to the next way we try to control our kids?
I think that was good. So the next one is reward.
Yes.
And he gives a little story, a little example of, if you do this, then you get this. And, once you go 2 weeks, then you get a big prize. And then after they get the big prize, the next day they're doing the thing again. So that's the little story that he gives. But how have we seen this play out?
Oh, we both do this. Yeah, we both do this.
Well, I think you and I both like to be rewarded in our own personal lives.
Yes, I think we both. I think we like rewards.
So I think that it's just gratifying for us, and so we think in our brains like, oh, this will work.
Well, I think as well, right? Like the fear tactic, Brooklyn responds to very strongly. The reward tactic, Arya responds to. And I feel like every time we're at dinner, we're playing a game of poker, and we're just seeing who is going to put all the chips on the table first. How much candy do we have to give up? How many cookies do we have to give up for you to eat your dinner? And it's this constant, exhausting. And if you're a parent with little kids, you know this.
Sit. Like they just don't sit. They just
sit.
They dance. Why do kids like they'll sit and watch a show for 20 minutes But dinner for 10 minutes,
they got to eat.
They're dancing. Arya literally had a blanket wrapped around her while she was eating dinner, walked into the kitchen while she's eating and tripped over the dishwasher. I'm like, well, just sit down.
Yeah, Brooklyn ate a taco the other night in 4 different chairs at one time. Like she just dribbled taco meat and crunched it on 4 different chairs around our dining room table.
So
and
true.
and it's like we're actually so desensitized to them at dinner time that sometimes like halfway through dinner I have to shake myself back to reality and be like, get in your stinking seats. Like you can't eat upside down in the dog's bowl. Like you need to sit down and eat your dinner. It drives me insane.
We do the okay, you can have a cookie if you eat
this. Eat your broccoli and you can have a cookie. They're like, can I be done? Eat half your broccoli and you can have a cookie. Eat 1 bite of broccoli and you can have a cookie.
Broccoli and we'll give you 7 cookies.
Yeah, lick the broccoli and you can have a whole box of Cookie Crisp. Like, it's exhausting. It really is. And it feels like we have to bribe them every time. Now, we just done this in Disney. We'd just been in Disney World with the girls and my entire family. And we had to bribe Brooklyn to get on rides with cash. Like literally we were paying her $20 a pop to get on scarier rides.
It happened 3 times.
Happened 3 times.
Now, granted, in my mind,
I started it on Tron.
I started it. You started it, and in my mind, it was fair because there were 6 kids, and she was the only one. She had $125 to spend on souvenirs from gift cards and everything, and all the other cousins had $200.
Yeah,
for various reasons, and so I was like, in my mind, this is just evening.
It's going to happen anyway. We might as well use it.
We might as well use it to get her to do things, and so we were trying to like. Essentially strong arm her.
We're bribing her through anxiety is what we were doing. We're bribing her out of her anxiety to be on these rides and trying to get her to ride stuff that she typically would back out on and be too afraid of because we really want her to realize that you can feel anxiety and still do the difficult thing. Like that's really important to us right now.
It feels better on the other side.
Yes, you'll be glad that you did the hard thing. Yeah. And she did learn something from that. And you had said you weren't, do you feel, and I don't feel too guilty about that either. Like that is a bribe
system. It was momentary control.
That's true.
We rarely do that on the regular with money though. Like, I mean,
I don't think we've ever done it with money. It's just.
That was just in Disney World.
Yeah.
And
just
so
galaxies.
I don't feel guilt
about
about
Galaxy stuff.
Yeah. I don't feel too badly about that because in my mind it was more of like we're in Disney World with your cousins, this may never happen again,
probably won't,
and who knows if you're gonna ride this ride again. Like let's just do it, let's live it up, let's check all the boxes, let's do it. And it was momentary control, but I don't think that's our regular parenting.
Yeah, I think that if we used reward and then I say if we use reward all the time, we certainly do use it a lot at the dinner table in these cutthroat negotiations.
Smaller hills.
Smaller hills. Ari's in one right now where if she doesn't do a certain thing for 15 days that she's not allowed to do, she will go be able to pick out a big Hatchimals at Target.
We used it for thumb sucking.
It did work for thumb sucking.
It did. And it's like, I guess to me that worked.
I do think that to a certain extent, it is not a bad thing for your children to learn that in the world, if you do the right thing, there is frequently reward for that. Like by and large, there is, right? If you work for a company and you don't cheat the company and you don't do the wrong things, if you work hard, normally in a good culture, which we by and large have, there's reward for that. There's good things that come out of that. Sometimes there's not, but usually there is. I don't think it's awful for your children to learn that. And so, I don't disagree that like trying to get control with like momentary things.
Yeah, but thumb sucking is not character building. Like that is just like an external.
Yeah, that's
habit.
True.
Like, but for character building within our children and in real life, reward is, probably not the best tool. Like, don't hit your sister for 30 days and I'll give you.
Yeah, that's one of the examples that Paul David Tripp uses.
That's building up who they are as a person. And That's only temporary. That's not going to motivate them to actually do the right thing for the right reasons.
Well, and I think reward without explanation is where reward is dangerous, right? Like, I don't know that reward in and of itself is a bad thing if they understand why what they're being asked to do or not do is important for them, right? I think reward is a bad thing when you say, don't hit your sister for 15 days and you'll get a new bike. But you never sit down and have the conversation about why we don't hit our sister. You just leave it as, hey, here's the goal. Just accomplish the goal so I can get the result from you that I want. You never take the time to sit down and explain this is why you don't hit your sister.
Context.
Yeah. Like, for Brooklyn, it was like, yeah, we're going to reward you for facing your fears and going on this ride. But in every one of those lines, we also had a very real discussion with her about why it's important for you to face your fears, why it's important for you to push through anxiety, how you're going to be glad that you did this once you're done, how this is there's a reward on the other side of this that isn't just, $20 more for the Disney store. There's also
high-fiving your cousin because that was so fun.
Yeah, you get to share experiences with your cousins and those sorts of things. And so I just think it's important that if you as a parent are going to include rewards on the other side of behavior, that they know why they're training in that behavior. Maybe they need that little incentive to get there, but they need to know why it is that they're trying to get there.
Good point.
Yeah. We have a third one.
Last one, and I think this one was the most convicting for me. I don't think I use this all the time, but I see with the fear and the reward, I could see like some level of you could flip this around a little bit and it could be a positive tool if you, like you just said,
if you apply it correctly.
But the last one is shame, and I'm not sure that there's much in shame that is good in parenting, and I can only think of negative effects from that. But shaming your child is a way to get temporary control of them, but not actually changing them in the end.
It probably does the exact opposite, actually.
Changes them negatively.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we try to do our best to avoid this in any way that we can. I don't think either of us want to shame our children. But I can tell you that it's effective because during my years in youth ministry, if I was on stage teaching and there was kids that were just being disruptive, an adult leader could come and talk to them and they wouldn't stop. But if I stopped what I was doing on stage and called them out, I mean, can you remember as a kid, if you were talking in class and your teacher just paused and said, "Hey, Mark, what are we talking about right now?" And you had no clue. Like that moment of shame was really effective. Like it is really effective. People don't want to feel shame. So it is super effective in getting from people what you want. But with your own children, I think that they lose all sense of safety almost immediately when they know that you're willing to use shame as a tool to get what you want from them.
And I think that, when your baby lands in your arms from that moment on, even into the adult years, when you are 85 and your child's 60, I mean, you are literally forming the voice in their heads of how they talk to themselves.
Yeah, what they think about themselves.
And what they think about themselves and what they think about how they fit into the context of the world. And if you shame them, they hear that voice in their heads. I don't want to say forever because
sometimes forever, unless they got a good counselor.
God can redeem everything, but absolutely, sometimes it can be forever.
Yeah.
And I think we need to take that super seriously. And I think even one of the things that I say that is shame, it induces shame, is like, what were you thinking? Or why would you do that? I say things like that sometimes.
Yeah, and that is a shame tool, right? Like how you should be ashamed of yourself that you did this thing or that you thought this way, or yeah. And sometimes that comes out of a genuine moment of confusion. Like I genuinely don't know why you're doing this thing. Yeah. Like what got into your brain that caused you to want to do this? Who would ever do this thing?
But the tone in my voice is shame inducing.
Yeah, I think that's something I think I'm pretty I grew up, so my dad grew up in a household where shame was used on him all the time. And I think he was really dealt with a lot of verbal and emotional abuse. And my dad did a really good job of breaking that cycle. Like, I think my grandfather told my dad that he was stupid constantly, all of his children. And I have one time in my life as an adult that I remember my dad telling me that I was stupid. And he came back a day later just mortified and apologetic.
Yeah, your dad definitely broke the cycle.
My dad he worked very hard to break the cycle of shame that his dad instilled in his children. My dad made sure to not pass that down to the next generation and did not pass that shame mechanism down to my brother and I. And for that, I'm deeply appreciative. So I don't know. Do you think I use shame? I don't feel like I do. I feel like there's been moments.
Oh, I think I use it more than you.
Yeah. I think there's been moments that I've done things where I'm like, what I use shame for is like, if you continue in this behavior, you are going to end up being ashamed, and I'm protecting you from that. Like, if you don't stop, I think with thumb sucking, I didn't really use this then because Brooklyn was pretty little, but that was definitely one of the things that I was like communicating to her. Like, if you keep sucking your thumb when you go to school, you're going to get made fun of for sucking your thumb. So I know this is hard, but it's why we're trying to get you to stop doing it now. Because if you stop doing it now, you don't have to get made fun of later, because shame is going to be the tool that other kids use to modify your behavior, right? Kids use shame against each other all the time to be able to modify behavior of other kids and gain control and build pecking orders with them. And as parents, I want to protect my children from those moments where shame will be used against them by kids their age. So I think I've used shame in that way before.
I think we're just different personalities with, like if something happens, you're more prone to use fear and I'm more prone to use shame because you are just generally a much more forgiving person than I am. You see a lot of things as not hard and fast rules, and you are better at providing grace for people in general, not just our kids. And so I see life a little bit more black and white, and I love to follow rules, and I love to read the rules at the playground. And
and the public pool.
And so to me, my brain is more wired of like, well, you just broke a rule. How dare you? And like, I just don't know why I'm like that, but I am. And
why would you do that?
And I think I need to work on this. I don't think that this is a daily problem in our house. I don't know. Would you say?
No, I don't think it's a daily problem.
I think my tone, can be shame inducing, but I think
Brooklyn's a lot like you too, so she responds to shame very quickly, because she is a perfectionist, kind of like you are.
And the shame should not be. This goes back to episode 1 where we talked about things that are actually sinful and things that are not, things that are just culturally, And so like, I could make her feel shamed over what shoes she chose to wear with her outfit in the morning because I just would never wear that outfit. And I think it looks weird. And come on, and that is so pointless as a parent. That has nothing to do.
Sometimes I step in those moments where you're like, why do you have that on? And I'm like, leave her alone.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
And so
leave her be.
I think that has nothing to do with sin or character, and I need to let that go. But he does say in the book, Paul says in the book, that, guilt is not a bad thing. But the problem is we focus on the horizontal guilt between us. And so, when we're with our kids, it's more, I can't believe you would do this to me, or I can't believe you would do this to your sister. Whereas we should be motivated by helping them to come to terms with the vertical guilt of not honoring God.
Oh, this is not what God would want. This isn't what he would want for you.
Yeah. Don't
treat your sister this way because God created your sister too. He's put you two in a family together. Your job is to protect her instead of, hey, you need to and you should apologize, but just apologize to your sister because you did X, Y, or Z to her, and you should feel bad because this is your sister, versus you should feel bad because we know that this isn't what God wanted. This isn't what your creator wants. And those are hard. Like, I think that those take more intentionality. It's much easier to do like the quick horizontal guilt. And I would say, for me, I think I don't always love the word guilt. I like the word conviction a lot more. But I think to a certain extent, one of your jobs as a parent is to be the voice of conviction sometimes in your children's life, that they need to be convicted of what they're doing if what they're doing is wrong. And sometimes oftentimes the most effective way for conviction to take place, because conviction is the bedrock of real life change. Like when we feel convicted about something, we feel compelled enough to make changes. Sometimes like fear or, bribes or shame, those things very rarely generate real life change in our kids. It's conviction that really shapes our lives. It shapes our lives personally, and it shapes our lives of our kids. All the other stuff is kind of a game that they learn how to play. Either how do I dodge mom and dad enough so that they don't get angry enough to flip? How do I game the system enough to be able to get the maximum amount of rewards for the minimum amount of behavioral change, right? How do I, do the right things and live perfectly so that I don't have to feel shame? Everything becomes a micro game whenever kids learn conviction, and you can learn to become the voice of God in conviction in their lives. It does generate real, genuine change in their lives.
Right. Same way that you view school. I mean, we learned in college that a lot of students just learn how to play the game called school. And it's a very check the box, I'm going to coast and get done what I need to get done to get out of here game. Versus wouldn't you want your student or your child to learn to love learning?
Yeah.
And sure, we can get them to check all the boxes with our different tactics, but are we creating somebody who loves to learn? And that principle applies here. We're not trying to get them to check all the boxes, and then when they're 18, we can release them. Like, we're helping to form a human being, and we want to
we want them to love to be obedient.
Love to be obedient, love to make the right choice, love wisdom, to love God, and love to walk in his ways, and not just, do the right thing because I am scared of what my dad will say, or do the right thing because I know my mom is going to roll her eyes at this choice, or do the right thing and I'll get $500.
Yeah. The rewards are going to have, inflation is around. Next time I'm in Disney, it's going to be like a $300 check.
Problem with our youngest child is she's like, I know I'm getting the reward no matter what, whether you give it to me or not. I'm gonna find a way to get it. I'm gonna get a reward. She's something else.
She is definitely a child that if we put a box checking system in front of her, she would certainly quickly learn how to play the game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But does that about do it? I see you got maybe one more quote outlined or underlined there. Is it worth reading as we close out?
It just says, do you find yourself willing to settle for control rather than giving yourself to the hard process of change? And I think that we kind of just talked about that, even with the school metaphor of like, it's not, we don't want to be just checking boxes. We want to be forming and creating and developing.
Yeah, I think it's a really satisfying question to end on as well. Good thing to contemplate with your children today. Are you satisfied with momentary control, or are you willing to step into the genuinely hard work of real change
that happens over a long process and is
lots
given
of conversations,
up to God?
Lots of grace. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah, I will end with this. All the parents that I look up to, my mentor parents, all of them talk about how it's all prayer. And that's really the only way that you can effectively change somebody is the power of prayer.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
Don't underestimate that.
Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Called to Parent podcast. We've had a great time recording it as we're adventuring through Paul David Tripp's book, 14 Gospel Principles for Parenting. Next month, I believe Dalton and Emily are going to be back on Jen's podcast. So thank you.
I love listening to them. I'm excited.
Me too. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening and tuning in. And we'll see you guys in a couple of months when we're back with chapter 7.
Sounds good.